What is up, everybody? We got an awesome case unboxing for you today, brought to you by Torras. As you can see, they did send me this case, but as always, my opinions are my own, so I'll give you the true feel of the case and the good and the bad, and I'll give it a rating at the end. But let's get right into this new case. All right, so you do have your classic Torras boxing. You got the name of it, the Torras Ostand Q3 Air for protection for the iPhone 16 Pro Max and Pro phones. I'm pretty sure they have one for the iPhone 16's regular lineup, but I'll have to double check on that. I'll let you know in the comment or down in the description, but they are for the Pro lineup. I've been looking forward to getting this case and reviewing it because it just seems so awesome. So normal casing for Torras, and then you just plop open the top here. And on the inside is always a little bit of plastic with a little protective casing around the case itself. We could take that out. And then here, to go along with the case, we do have some extra buttons. So as you can see on the case, they're orange buttons right now, and I'll get into those. But you can change the color of these depending on the case, or just buy whatever color you want. So super cool feature from Torras. All right, so first impressions of the phone. I absolutely love the look and feel of this. Obviously you have like their patented O stand that is built in and can have MagSafe charging, make the phone a stand, horizontal, vertical, whichever way you want. Then they got this really nice lettering and different words on the sides, kind of like some corner graphics and things like that to go along with it. A little bit of their graphic and their logo right there in the upper left-hand corner. And then you're gonna get some camera protection that's pretty much standard on all cases, but nice to see that if you drop your phone, you're not going to break your lens or anything like that unless it does fall on a rock. On the edges here, now these grips are amazing, just naturally gripping the phone, and I'll show you when I actually have the phone in the case, but these things are amazing. The buttons are a really cool orange, and then the signature about this case is the air pockets on the top corners and across the top, and the bottom corners and across the bottom. So this, and when I put the phone in, you can see this a little bit better, but they do kind of push in with a lot of force, but it's going to give you amazing protection around the device without adding too much extra space on the sides and on the top and bottom. It's still going to feel like a normal iPhone case, but give it a ton more protection. Now on the left side, you still get your three normal volume control buttons along with your action button. And then again, that super nice grip along the side there. So that's really incredible. Now in the corners on the inside, you do get a little air protection, making it, that military grade protection that Torras is known for, always protecting your iPhones or whatever device you have that you're using a Torras case for. And then the back is kind of this opaque black gray, which is super nice. It's gonna let the black of my iPhone come through. But if you do have a white, it might be a little bit lighter and make it a different look and feel for the case, but love the coloring of this as well. And then your MagSafe O stand ring as well. On the bottom, you can see your cutouts, full cutouts for your speakers, which is really generous because these are a little bit deeper because of the bubble protection on the bottom. So it's nice that they fully cut these out instead of just making them the little pinholes. So you can get full volume, and a very generous USB-C plug hole, so you can pretty much fit any USB-C cord head inside that as well. But let's go ahead and get the case onto the phone itself. Super easy, just slide it into the top there, and then it goes in, really nice and snug on the sides. And overall feel, it doesn't really feel too heavy at all. I know it might seem like a little bit of a bulkier case, but it's not. Like, it still feels really normal and regular in the hand. So going over a little bit of the attributes, let's just kind of pull that out. It's a little bit of pull on the sides by the three buttons, but that's fairly normal. And if you pull out, where there aren't any buttons, you really don't get a lot of movement. It's super snug, and I'm pulling pretty hard on this, so it's a very snug fit on your phone, which is great. And then you do get a full integrated camera button, and I'll go over how easy that is to use later on. Let's check the buttons. Very clicky, very easy to use, and great responsiveness on those three, and the same on that side. Accidentally took a screenshot there. So the buttons, 10 out of 10 on the buttons. Those are absolutely incredible. You're not going to be able to get any gunk or anything in there because they're fully integrated, and they do pop out, like I said, to change the colors if you want them. But I do love, kind of this orange contrast on the black and dark gray. So I'm going to keep them as is. And then your little bubble for the protection on the top, really nice look and feel on that. I mean, I can't speak highly enough. You know, if you drop your phone, it does give a little bit of a bounce, full protection there. I don't really want to break this phone, but I trust this case 100%. Looking at the back, you can kind of see the black of my iPhone coming through to make it a little less opaque. But you know, that stand, always good. You can do it that way, or if you want a different angle horizontally, you could do it that way. And then you could swap it to vertical right there. And they are really nice. You can see right here, you know, they kind of cut this out a little bit. That's not just to make it easier to get out, you know, get your finger in there, but it's also because if this was fully round, your phone would wobble when it's down. So it gives it a nice place to sit. So just make sure that's always down on the bottom. You're never gonna have any wobble problems or anything like that. And does magnetic right through there. And you can still throw this on a MagSafe charger and get full charging on that as well, which is super convenient. Checking a look at the bottom, you know, you can see those full cutouts for the speakers. Always love to see that. So kudos to Torras for there. And then your full MagSafe, and then a very generous cutout for your USB-C. You can kind of see all that metal around the port. You're not going to get a lot of gunk in there because it's so well fit, but you can fit any USB-C cord head inside there because it is a little bit deeper, so that could cause a problem. But this also, you know, maybe I can zoom in. It does kind of, you know, indent in to make sure it does have a little bit more space on that for your cords. So very well thought out. You know, I'm absolutely loving this case. And then you can see, you know, kind of these the air words and a little bit more, you know, while the phone is inside of it, because it was opaque, it was a little bit harder to see. But kind of love this little, you know, dimple and just the overall look and feel of the back. It's got a lot going on, but it doesn't feel too much or really taking away from the case. Again, in the corner, I'll zoom in on this, but it says air protector in that corner, upper right hand corner as well. And then these grips, I mean, these are one of my favorite things about this case. You know, you're holding your phone either way, righty, lefty, but this thing makes it so easy to grip that, and it's really not adding any obtrusiveness or doesn't feel weird. It almost kind of feels like a basketball. You know, that's kind of the closest thing that I can come up with that feels like kind of the silicone rubber, semi-leather feeling on the side here, but super great there. Love that they added that. The back of the phone itself really isn't slippery, but I wouldn't call it grippy either. I don't think you're gonna have a problem gripping it if you just have your fingers on the back. You know, it does have a little bit of tack if you got some moisture on your fingers, but no problems there. And then in terms of the camera button, you do have this white camera button right here, you know, and it has the indent so you can easily change, get your finger in there, swipe up and down, double click to change any of the settings if you do use your camera button. But it is nice that they finally integrated a full camera button inside of this instead of the cutout. So loving that as well. And with the new iPhones coming out, it's going to be year 2 of the camera button. So hopefully more phone cases will come onto this train, and for the next iterations of all their devices, be able to implement a camera control button. So great there. So zooming in kind of onto the camera protection lip, it does have about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters of space between the edge here and the camera lens. So if you do drop your phone flat like this, it's not going to break or anything like that. It doesn't sit flat, obviously, because, you know, this is higher than the rest. But as long as your lens doesn't actually hit like a pebble or a rock or something on the ground, you know, this lip is going to protect your lenses, because no one wants to pay for that like $700 charge if you don't have Apple protection to repair your phone's camera, because that is just ridiculously expensive, and absolutely no one wants to have that happen. So gonna give you full protection there. I think overall, I gotta give this case like a 9.8 out of 10. I think, you know, even though it is the air protection, it does add a little bit of height to it. I think you're gonna get just as good a protection for some other cases and even other Torras cases, just with the built-in military grade protection. But I still love the look and feel, and this is gonna be my daily driver case. It's absolutely gonna take over from the mouse case. You know, still love those, have no problem with them. But just the look and feel and overall aesthetic of this case is just incredible. So 9.8 out of 10. You know, buttons I already said 10 out of 10. Grip is 10 out of 10. The thoughtfulness of cutting out and adding some space here, 10 out of 10. Design on the back for me is great. You could love it or hate it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you like some stuff on the back, or if you just like kind of that plain look and feel of no branding, no words, anything like that, or designs. But let me know. You know, I can definitely see these corners helping. Like I said, I don't know how much of extra it's going to add, but it definitely looks great, adds function to the phone, and really doesn't add too much space. But that's where I'm just going to knock off the 0.2 on that, because you can't really have a perfect phone case. But if there was the closest one to it, this is absolutely going to be it. So if you guys are looking for this case, I will leave some links down below in the description. Please make sure to click on those, as it does help the channel, and I get a little bit of kickback revenue from Amazon for that. So big thank you to Torras for sending me this case. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this and more Apple news and rumors. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.